Welcome to Pixel Debauchery, the one-stop resource for lewd and lascivious programming. Covering MMORPG video games, only on Pantheon Radio. We condone all aspects of ill repute and repugnancy. Please bring your big boy grieves when adventuring in our content. We are Pixel Debauchery, covering the hard-hitting concerns and questions about the MMORPG community without unneeded censorship. Listener discretion is advised and suggested.
Oh, Pixel Debauchery, you're my only hope.
Hello out there, this is Scribble, one of your hosts for this evening of Pixel Debauchery. In case you've been living under a rock, Pixel Debauchery is a MMORPG gaming community podcast currently in support of Pantheon Rise of the Fallen, in development by Visonary Realms. But wait, that's not all. We'll delve into some hot topic discussion without censorship. We are not under any contract with anyone to say certain things just to get special perks. No, we conduct unadulterated, unfiltered, unmoderated discussion. And best of all, we're slightly demented. Okay, mostly demented. And not really playing with a full deck, if you know what I mean. Pixel Debauchery touches on everything that affects the Pantheon community at large, covering MMORPGs, the people that make up their communities, streaming in 2018, philanthropical works, and most importantly, our beloved Pantheon Rise of the Fallen. All this has been specifically formulated and formatted for your listening pleasure on PantheonRadio.com. Yeah, that's right, we're Internet's radio. Check out these amazing guys and girls at PantheonRadio.com and listen to all the sick jams and great Pantheon talks and discussions about lore, development news, and frankly anything related to Pantheon Rise of the Fallen. Hey, that's not all. They have sick contests. Be sure to check those out and get yourself some fat loot. Pixel Debauchery is in operation because of the kind donations from listeners like you and providers like PantheonRadio.com. But wait, that's not all. We donate portions of our donations to charities that our listeners and guests deem worthy. If you feel that our show is worthy of your support, head on over to patreon.com/Pixel Debauchery and hit the Become a Patron button to donate whatever you're comfortable in giving to the show. Unlike the real world, size of your donation doesn't matter. We have some great custom rewards for our supporters like Pixel Debauchery stickers, shirts, or jogging jackets for as little as $1. You can have access to all our past Pixel Debauchery episodes, fully streamable. Oh, baby. I almost forgot. You can view our overview section to see what charities we already donated to. Alternatively, you could head on over to PantheonRadio.com and hit their donate button, and a portion of their donations go to Special Effect Charity, while supporting airspace for great Pantheon commentators like Sacred TV, Basgrim TV, and the Voices of Terminus show, among others. Oh, and us, Pixel Debauchery. Special Effect is the charity that helps people play video games with adaptive equipment in the United Kingdom. Oh yeah! Do you have a charity you love? Send that information on to mmodebauchery@gmail.com and our team will be there to review. I want to take a moment to thank our current and past patrons via our Patreon site. I would like to thank this month's supporters: Gabe, Jin, Dennis, Lizzie, Paul, Rain, Dr. Sinister, Alex, Alexis, and Donnie. And one patron is anonymous. We'd like to thank you as well. Thank you, everyone. You're all awesome. Remember, we don't do anything without the kind support of our Patreon supporters. We currently have 10 patrons. Are you next?
We have a very special show lined up for you in this episode 12, The Guild FACELESS Being in my element, that of a weaseling rat persona, just this time, not in real life, in cyberspace, I went undercover for a couple months spying on a hardcore raiding guild, FACELESS. This includes their Everquest guild on Agnar, Lockjaw, and last of all, the World of Warcraft emulator Light's Hope. I lurked out in all their Discord channels and quietly stalked their organization for perspective on functionality, atmosphere, and civility. I have to say I'm honestly very, very impressed. I had been in some highly skilled raiding guilds and unfairly pegged them based on my personal experiences as very trolly, unforgiven to mistakes, neckbeards that never see the sun, and led by a controlling, militant, loudmouth raid leader. This is hardly the case in the guild FACELESS. During the 2 months or so I was in their Discord chat, which was their main form of communication, I was delighted by the support their community offers to its players. When someone makes a mistake, no one is belittled or ridiculed. The consensus is to just learn from what has happened and move on to a higher plane of knowledge. This is very refreshing for a competitive raiding guild operating on the highest level in Everquest. This made me want to dig that much deeper into the phenomenon that is FACELESS and learn about their history in Everquest during the last several years. More importantly, to discover what they do right for their community in order to sustain their longevity. Many times a highly competitive raiding guild which operates on this highest level of competition tends to burn out. This has not been the case with the guild FACELESS. It could be due to their leadership ability to delegate responsibility to supporting members or just their deep-seated desire to compete and do so effectively as a team. Whatever their secret is, it's working. Let's see if we can figure out what's in their secret sauce by going back to where it all started.
FACELESS, the guild as we know them today, started on the Everquest time block progression server of Fulak, when FACELESS founding member Zay took a couple of steel ulaks and logged in to wage virtual war against anyone that would stand in his way as he forged ahead on his PvE adventure. When I asked Zayd how he grew the guild, he said I would just play all day, and the people I met that were cool, I just invited. So in the beginning, there was no forum posts. It was just word of mouth and strictly social interaction that decided if you were FACELESS material. When FACELESS recruited enough, they immediately started contesting raid targets with Guild, Mischief and Chaos, otherwise later known as Echoes of Elysium. After months of bad raiding environment brought on by MacroQuest and Harm Touch sissies, yeah, back then the mobs had 32,000 hit points and Harm Touch hit for 2,000. Those that had the Harm Touches first won, and MacroQuest added to the fire by allowing scripts to automate that process. Since this was ridiculous to the members of the FACELESS, members opted to move to the Everquest test server. In essence, this is where FACELESS found its groove, clearing 16 expansions and awakening the dreaded Sleeper. That means from Classic July 2012 to Underfoot June 2014, FACELESS was performing under the highest level of rating on test. To me, this was just to hone their skill for what was yet to come, the opening of another time lock progression server. Enter Lockjaw. 2015 to the present. When FACELESS moved to Lockjaw in May 2015, Zayd, along with his experienced leadership and members such as Selenius, Fiona, Yawgmoth, Frozen, along with 50 hardened members of a well-oiled machine capable of mashing any pixelated antagonist that dared to stand in their way. To prove this, they conspired to set out and achieve the fastest Lord Nagafin and Lady Vox kills, which took a mind-blowing time of 40 total hours to achieve. But Scribble, you're just showcasing that the people of the FACELESS are no-life neckbeards that do nothing for the community. This is entirely not, in the slightest bit, the truth. FACELESS established a competitive rotation which allowed guilds to get uncontested kills, but also threw in free-for-all days to ensure competition thrived. Talk about being a steward to the community when they could just keep all those pixels to themselves. Continuing the onslaught, FACELESS completed all server firsts and cleared Kunark in just 5 days, or 129 hours, which was the fastest at that time ever, which prompted executive producer Holly Longdale to congratulate FACELESS members publicly. This is a real big deal.
Hooray! Hooray!
But that's not all. After opening the Luckland expansion, Emperor SSRA was killed in only 45 hours, and that record would stand until Faceless broke it again. Of course. On Lockjaw, the Faceless legacy of rating excellence is continuing even to this day, achieving all major server firsts from Kunark to Dragons of Norath. Agnar, 2017 to the present. When Agnar opened up in 2017, Faceless was there, with their bags packed and their knowledge fresh from Lockjaw in tow. This time, the server was ready for them with new challenges. Meaning, for the most part, enemies were loaded with Mitigation of the Mighty, Mark of the Old Ways, and Presence of the Mighty. These buffs were rolled out back on Lockjaw and Finnegal servers to counteract mobs from being killed too quickly by raid forces. However, this would be the first time they were all present from launch on a new server. This made content much more of a challenge. But yes, Faceless was still out there, setting the world record for classic EQ completion at 9 days or 222 hours, 8 minutes, and 25 seconds. As if you were worried about the minutes and seconds. In doing so, that was setting up the fastest Finny, Kazakh Thul, and Aya Vishan kills.
I'm a bad boy.
If that wasn't enough for you to go, wow! Faceless set a world record when Luckland was unlocked at 39 hours, 24 minutes, 38 seconds to enter Vexthal and defeat Atan Ara. On Agnar, the Faceless is still a force to be reckoned with. Even with Planes of Power unlocked, they are continuing to do server firsts, the latest being the Elemental Planes and Plane of Time. But don't take my word for it, the excellence that is Faceless appears to be unstoppable. If you'd like to hear more, we have various guests that sit down with us on Pixel Debauchery and go over what is Faceless. But first, we'll go on a brief community spotlight advertisement from us here at Pixel Debauchery.
Are you a bard with a tendency to put your crowd to sleep? Is boring the opposition into submission one of your go-to finishing moves?
Yep.
Do you feel you're not performing up to the standards of the minstrel you once were?
Did he just say menstrual?
Do you want to get back into action? Rocking Throne Fast and putting the wild back in Wild's End? Stella's House of Ill Repute is here for you. Our staff at Stella's House of Ill Repute teach all the moves that drives a crowd crazy. Learn moves like Have Mercy.
Ooh.
Don't stand so close to me. And don't put that there. At Stella's House of Ill Repute, Stella and her staff of bearded dwarven misfits will surely have you singing the high notes. Remember, more money equals better results. Meet us in Wild's End at Stella's House of Ill Repute. We're now open holidays and late nights. Email mmodebauchery@gmail.com for reservations.
Do you consider yourself a talented writer or voiceover artist? Do you want to walk in the realm of greatness, that of Pixel Debauchery? Well, here is your chance. Please ready a storyline in play or narration format and send it on over to mmodebauchery@gmail.com, and Pixel Debauchery's demented team of misfit dwarfs will review and be sure to get back to you. We are in special need of female elven voiceover artists.
Oh, Pixel Debauchery, you're my only hope.
Please allow 48 hours for review. Thanks again, your team at Pixel Debauchery.
This is RPMMO Radio, and we listen to Pixel Debauchery on PantheonRadio.com. Yes, pass the tea and crumpets there, pardon me, yes. Check us out on RPMMORadio.com if you're into role-playing in MMORPGs.
And we're back. This is Scribble from Pixel Debauchery. We have some very special guests from Faceless. First off, we're going to start off with a guy named Seeger and Shucklighter. Could you guys go ahead and give us an introduction on what you do over at Faceless?
So I'm Seeger. I'm currently the guild leader of Faceless Empire on Agnar, which is one of the two currently active Faceless guilds in Everquest. The other is Faceless Insanity over on the Lockjaw TLP.
Shucklighter. I was recruiting officer for Faceless on Agnar.
for first couple expansions. I had to leave. I'm factioning, saving up time for my Pantheon static. Also, I am still the recruiting officer for Pantheon, so if you're going to be in testing and you want to hook up with us, contact me at Chucklighter, pound 2883 Discord.
So could you guys tell me what happens when a new server comes out? What does the Faceless do? They form groups that you're assigned to so you can level the fastest to get those server first? Or how is it done in Faceless?
Yeah, I mean, I can give like a rough estimate of kind of like what we're looking to do in Pantheon. So most of us are hoping that, Pantheon is a little bit more time consuming, maybe. I don't know if that's a good way to put it. But, we don't want to be able to max level in 2 or 3 days like we do on the progression server. So, I mean, we're hoping like minimum, 3 weeks at like 20 hours a day for Pantheon for max level. And if it takes us that long, it's going to take your slowest players, months and months to get to max level. I mean, I'd like it to take longer, but that's what we're looking at, 2 to 3 weeks minimum, 18, 20 hours a day for the statics. Now, we're not saying that everyone, in Faceless is going to do that, but, the fastest people will have groups that are doing that. We'll have static groups doing, 12 hours a day for a few days. We'll have static groups doing 20 hours a day for a few weeks, and everything in between.
So I know you guys go hard on statics. In particular, I heard this one story about this one gentleman falling out when he didn't prepare correctly for a static. You guys want to give me that story?
So it's kind of funny in a sense, but I will say that like nobody, myself, Zaid, nobody wants anyone in the guild to have a medical problem for going to static, and we actually don't think that's necessary. I mean, going 24 hours, 30 hours without sleep, I think you can do that in a healthy way. You need to get up from the computer regularly, you need to walk around, you need to eat and drink healthy, get good sleep before you start doing it. There's people that work jobs. I mean, there's doctors who are medical residents that go 30, 35 hours without sleeping. I mean, it's not something that can't be done. But you kind of got to be smart about it. One of the guys in Classic, who I think Shuck may have known better than I did, he didn't move for hours. He wouldn't even stand up for hours on end. Then he had a problem and had to go to the hospital. I heard he was taking weird calcium supplements, and he claimed it made it so he didn't have to stand up even. And then the next thing he's gone. I don't know the full story. I've just kind of heard it secondhand. But yeah, that did happen. And I don't think he ever came back. I think he may have come back to give his account away, and that was it.
Yeah, I'll tell the story. Yeah. But first, Seeger, you're a big meal prep guy for statics, right?
Yeah, so I actually will often joke that I'm eating nothing but pizza and stuff just to troll people, but I actually normally cook really healthy food to go into a static, because I chicken, rice, lean proteins, healthy carbs. Maybe it just doesn't matter. Maybe you could eat pizza and nothing else, but I just feel like eating a little healthier helps you feel better if you're not sleeping as much, and that's my theory anyway.
Do you guys exercise or anything? Do you, in those statics, do you get up and walk around at a half a mile or come
generally
back to it?
I don't know if I would have time to do a half mile, but I live in a 2-story house. I'll walk the stairs, or I'll run up into the stairs a little bit, just get your blood moving. I'll stand up for a while. I have a sit-stand desk, so I'll do some of the static standing.
Yeah, it's kind of same stuff for a long flight. You don't want to clot up or anything. So this guy, his name was Malik, and we first came across him in Pantheon. He was a pre-alpha pledge, originator pledge, and he caught my attention because he had a singing short sword tattooed on his forearm, and I was thinking all right, if you got the Bard Epic tattooed on your forearm, you're probably fucking hardcore. And so I started talking to him, and we ended up inviting him to our static. He was playing a mage, and like Seeger said, he thought he took something that was, or he took something that he thought was gonna make it easy for him to stay up. And I mean, he really didn't last that long. I want to say within like 20 hours, he was like, basically just leeching, like he wasn't even there. Then he'd say like, oh, I gotta take a shower. I gotta try to wake up. And then eventually he just, he never came back. And later he told us that his arms and legs swelled up, and he had to go to the hospital, I think. He never really played Agnar. He did give his account away, and I haven't seen him in Pantheon testing either, which is a shame because he paid the money. So Malik, if you're out there and you're still alive, we'd like to hear from you.
Wow, so he was bragging that he had the dream drug and just didn't work out for him.
Yeah, I mean, there's really no replacing the fact that you need to move a little bit. I mean, elderly people have problems when they can no longer move. I mean, there's no reason to like not move at all to do one of these statics.
Yeah, you can get bed sores from sitting too long. I don't know. You gotta move around, man.
Gotta hydrate also. You drink Monsters or whatever, and you still need water.
I will say something. I don't know how much you like to keep it on one topic, but the problem we had, and I don't know if Shuck agrees or not. I actually did recruiting for Velius into Luckland before I became the guild leader, and then I kind of passed it on to someone else. Recruiting is probably one of the worst things to do in an MMO guild, and one of the big problems I often have with recruiting people to this guild is they were convinced, like, I can't be in Faceless if I have a job. I can't be in Faceless if I can't raid 20 hours a day. I can't be in... I mean, they have all these, beliefs that just are not true. Part of how we balance out raiding all the time, and I don't know how it'll be on Pantheon because it could be a very different game, but in the EQ guild, we don't require you to make every raid. That's one of the big things. And we also, we understand that people have real lives. Like, I would say the majority of the people I raid with are gainfully employed. And in some ways, we're actually more accommodating of certain people than even more casual guilds. Just as an example, we have a current raider who's a police officer, and his department, he works generally, I think, 4 12-hour shifts in a row, and then he's off for 4 days, and it just cycles like that continuously. And because of that, like, he can't say, I'm always going to be able to raid at 8 o'clock on Friday, because some Fridays it'll be in the middle of his 4-day, tour. But so in a casual guild with a schedule, he wouldn't really be able to raid with them at all, unless, really at all, because his schedule's always changing. But a guild like Faceless, where we do the, impromptu raids throughout the day based on when bosses spawn, he could actually, be a 50-60% raider, which, ends up working out for him.
But
yeah,
not at the start though, right? At the start, we're talking about take it off.
So this guy in particular, he's lucky, and police officers generally have really good vacation benefits. He usually takes off like a week or 2 for a static launch.
Yeah, so I'm also a police officer, and that's kind of how I ended up in Faceless. Zeta approached me, actually. We had a conversation, and I hadn't even considered being in Faceless because I just didn't have the schedule to raid anymore. I was used to World of Warcraft raiding, where people come home from work, they eat dinner, you log in, and you have your scheduled raid. And I work 12-hour shifts, and my schedule rotates. So if I'm off one night, I work it next week. So right now I'm off. Here we are on Wednesday night. Next Wednesday night, I'll be at work. So it's pretty difficult to raid when raids are scheduled. But in an open world contested raiding game, when something spawns, you go in and kill it. And so you're able to contribute even if you have a crazy schedule. And kind of along the same line, because we are that kind of guild, and we are looking to kill things when they spawn rather than when we schedule it. We're looking for raiders around the world. We have people on the East Coast of the United States, on the West Coast. We have people in Australia. We have people in Europe. Everywhere in the world. Zaid is in Japan. So we want everyone that is a decent person and knows how to play.
For you guys, it's usually you guys go pretty hard for 3 months, ish, and then you guys can back off a little bit. You guys can usually kind of mellow out, almost like, I wouldn't say casual raid guild, but you guys move back. You could have a more lenient schedule.
Well, I mean, that's kind of like a TLP thing, because it's like cyclical. You know, you have an expansion launch, you got to kill everything, and then you kind of, you know, put it on farm, and things are more relaxed, and then you get to the next expansion and it ramps up again. I don't know if it'll be like that for Pantheon. I don't know how long we'll go before we get an expansion. I don't know how long it'll take before we get everything dead. But yeah, I mean, I think once we've killed everything, then there's a good chance it'll be more relaxed. And I don't think it ever gets to the point where it's a casual guild. You know, most of our players put in a decent number of hours. We have a friends and family option for people that want to play more casually. At least when I was recruiting on Agnar, we would ask that you make 30% of the raids to be in good standing. So 3 out of every 10 things we kill, be there. And I really don't think that's very much to ask. I mean, of course, we had guys that were there every fucking kill. And, you know, we had people that couldn't do that. They couldn't get there for 3 out of 10. But it's not as, you know, the requirements, it's not as strict as a lot of people think.
Yeah, you gotta break that stereotype of the fat guy sitting behind the keyboard with wrist braces and his Monster Energy drink and has no life and has a neck beard and all that. Got to break that cycle. I mean, you could be a regular Joe, a police officer nonetheless, and be in the Faceless.
So I will say I don't drink energy drinks really ever, especially not for statics. I just drink pretty much black coffee and water.
I go with coffee. I'm a coffeeholic. It's everywhere. Everything's coffee. I can't make 5 minutes throughout the day without coffee sometimes. Is there any insight you can give me on Faceless that's kind of fun? Because I have a lot on how hard you go and how efficient you guys are, and how many bosses you kill. And
so I'll say this: like, we used to have, we haven't done it in a while. We started this, I believe, in Velius, and again, I don't know the level of familiarity that people listening to this have with the EverQuest expansions, but
that's basically everybody, because that's pretty high.
Velius, Lucklin, those 2 expansions in particular have a lot of boss encounters, which are very long and very technically simple. So that means you may have a fight where you're standing there tanking a boss for 15 minutes and you're running a complete heal rotation and there's nothing to do. Like, as a DPS, like, you might be auto attacking and doing a few ability. I mean, it's just, there's nothing to dodge. There's no like mechanics to deal with. So one of those fights in particular, Lady Nev in North Temple of Ishan, was really bad for being just super boring. There's an event called the Burrower Beast event. That's Burrower Beast event in the Deep in Lucklin, which is really, really boring as well and really long. It's actually timed, so it's like 40 minutes, and you actually can't make it go faster. Like, there's different waves that come out, and nothing you do makes them come any faster. There's a ring war in Velius, which is 2 hours long, that you can't make it go any faster. So one way we found on those type of encounters to try and add some fun to the guild was we introduced what was called story time. And basically the officers would pick, oftentimes a recruit or somebody new, to tell a story. And you pretty much had to tell a story. And we had some good. We had some that were just kind of stupid and you wouldn't want to repeat. We had some that were pretty good. And probably the one, I'm going to repeat this one, that took the cake was from a bard. And I'm going to actually name him. His name was Defiant. D-E-A-F-Iant. Defiant. He joined in Velius. He raided with us at the beginning of Lucklin. Then he kind of disappeared. I don't know where he's at, but it'd be funny if you heard this, because I'm going to repeat his embarrassing story about his family. So this dude, Defiant, he raided in EverQuest he played EverQuest back in 1999, 2000, 2001, back in the original golden era of the game. And he was a teenager at the time. I think he was 17, 18, getting to the end of high school. And he had a brother that was, you know, around his age. And they both played. And his kind of main character he focused on was a dark elf wizard. And as, you know, teenage brothers do, they got into an argument or a fight, and his brother logged onto his account and deleted this dark elf wizard off his account. And then Defiant, you know, he didn't really know the process. He remade the account. He remade a character with that same name, like as he was trying to figure out how to get it fixed. So when he finally got in touch with the GM basically told them, because you've made another character with the same name as the one that was deleted, we can't restore your deleted character. It's just gone. And anybody that played EverQuest in the old days, you know, you have to imagine the time that you put into those characters. So he's just had his brother destroy his character, basically, with untold numbers of hours put into it. He was obviously pretty unhappy about it. I think it was his younger brother, and I think he said something to the effect of like he beat his ass. But in addition to beating him up, he also held it against him for years. Like he would, you know, jokingly bring it up like years later, like, "Hey man, remember that time you deleted my EverQuest character that I've been working on for 2 or 3 years?" And you know, 4 or 5 years later, his younger brother comes to show him something. He's like, "You know that wizard I deleted? Well, I've made amends for that, and you can never bring it up to me again." He takes his shirt off and turns around. On his back, he has a massive tattoo of this dark elf wizard that he had deleted. It was a female dark elf wizard. So, like, imagine a man with a full-size fucking female dark elf wizard back tat. And that was how he made amends to his brother for deleting the account. And that guy went on to get married and have a wife. His wife hates that fucking back tattoo because we never got to see a picture of it. It probably looks really stupid. I can only imagine that it does. But he actually played on Agnar, the dude with the back tattoo. And unfortunately, we could not pry it out of Defiant who this guy's name was, because we were all going to send him messages in game making fun of him. But that's probably the best thing to come out of story time, was the story about this dude getting a dark elf tattooed on his back to make amends for deleting a character like 15 years in the past.
Man, I wish you had a picture of this tattoo.
It would have been amazing.
That's something I need.
That's a really amazing story. Defiant, if you're out there listening, send an email on over to mmodebauchery@gmail.com so we can discuss this back tattoo on Pixel Debauchery. I want to thank Shucklighter and Seeger for coming on the show. We're going to go on a brief community spotlight advertisement for us here at Pixel Debauchery, and when we come back, we're going to have a few other special guests from Faceless. Stay tuned.
Oh my! Bite down, buckle up, cause this is gonna be rough!
Are you a woman with a woman-sounding voice?
Yes, women exist in MMORPGs. We're not all dudes playing female characters.
Pixel Debauchery might have a place for you, if you don't mind whoring your voice hole out for some simple yet effective D&D style comedic skits.
Gee whiz.
Yes, Pixel Debauchery has that testosterone, but it needs its bitch, nag, and whining that is so needed and desired. So if you find yourself without the Y chromosome and want to help out our team, please make haste and send a letter of intent to mmodebauchery@gmail.com. Thanks from the staff here at Pixel Debauchery.
Hey, you guys trying to find a date?
No, we have serious work to do here.
Oh!
Hello friends, this is a community service announcement from your friend Wisdom W. Wisdom. Offering the finest in MMORPG clarity from the Guild Condemned. Bring it for PvP and Team C&D in Pantheon Rise of the Fallen.
Oh yeah!
I wanted to take this time to tell you not to be that guy. You know the guy that I'm talking about. You know the guy who thinks he's accomplished something by killing a player 10 levels below himself. The same guy who not only feels the need to teabag the opposition, but just has to go that extra mile and camp their corpse. This guy isn't trying to lock down the zone for his team to drop a world boss, or for any other strategic reason. He is just trying his best to be that guy. You know who you are. You are Lobby Slayer. There's no honor or skill in this behavior. Let's do MMORPG's PvP right and go head to head in glorious combat. And restrain from the lame same old song, because community really does matter. Don't be a douche. This concludes your community service announcement from yours truly, Wisdom W Wisdom via Pixel Debauchery. Oh, and if you're looking for more information about Condemned, head on over to teamcnd.com. That's teamcnd.com, and learn all about team-focused PvP and raiding the Condemned style.
This is Scribble, and we're back. We're here with the one and the only, the Ashenor, from the guild Faceless, of course. You probably saw him on the Voices of Terminus show. If you haven't heard of the Voices of Terminus show, they have like 130 episodes already. Go ahead and go to YouTube and find Voices of Terminus. There's an episode that Ashenor's already in. Welcome, Ashenor. Also lurking in the back there, in the corner, is Leksur. Also does the show Voices of Terminus. Leksur is a glutton for punishment, and he's decided that he wants to co-host on Pixel Debauchery, so we're going to break him in here right now, so you'll hear him chiming in here and there. I'm going to get right into it. When your guild defeats a dragon, or a large boss, or something that takes a long time to accomplish, does the libido in your guild increase? Because I tend to think, for myself and others that are around me, think that 9 months down the road, a lot of babies are being born after that raid boss has gone down. What do you think?
I mean, the first time something does, I think for sure. I mean, it's definitely a rush. It's a sense of accomplishment. You know, you kind of liken it to other sports, you know, bowling, someone bowling a great game, doing things like that. I mean, I definitely think it's, especially when you put the time in to level up, gear up, get the strat, kill things, 100%. It's just not a top-end guild. I think many mid-tier, any tier guild, when they finally beat content they may have had to work at for a while, I think they definitely have a good reaction, for sure. Afterwards, they log out and, you know, maybe babies are made.
Do they log out and knock one off?
Yeah.
Nice. Do you do that?
You know, it takes a lot to kind of raise, I guess, my level of awareness on what we're killing, just because we've been stuck in the Everquest world for a while. I've killed it all so many times. Even the first time we killed it on a server really doesn't do a whole lot anymore. Waking the Sleeper was still pretty epic on Agnar. We woke the Sleeper under 20 hours. I mean, that was pretty crazy. There's a lot of work involved by the people that were in there and the people, you know, farming to help the people get there. So that was one. Outside of that, you know, until we get into Pantheon and we actually see some stuff, we kill some stuff we don't know about, and, you know, maybe we struggle for 10, 12 times dying, you finally kill it. I think that's when that really comes back.
You wonder if they even flinch anymore when they knock something down, like large dragons.
You know, I think most still do, though. And even in Faceless, I mean, there's a lot of people playing with us on these TLPs that weren't in top guilds before. But again, they had the playtime to play with us. They leveled up. And, you know, sometimes you have to take constructive criticism how to play your class, or at least listen or ask questions. That's the biggest thing, you know, ask questions. And we had a large group of people in Faceless that, you know, were killing stuff maybe for the first time even, and playing in, you know, a top tier guild. We had a lot of people like that. And that's where, you know, so many people think that they can't play in a guild like Faceless. You can, you know, it's a hobby. It's, can you align your time with what you need to do to be in it? And it's no different than, again, you're training for a triathlon or something like that. You know, you're set aside X amount of time, you're gonna travel on the weekend for the race. Hell, you're gonna have a high investment for a lot of gear and stuff, you know, versus something like this.
So basically, little knowledge required. You guys could train on the run.
Yeah, I mean, if your playtime fits ours and you're willing to listen, 100%. Yeah. And everyone makes mistakes. It's the whole thing is, don't keep making the same mistakes. So mistakes are fine. Mistakes happen, you know, but it's when you do the same thing over and over and over again. At that point, you know, maybe you're not cut out, but that's not the case for most people. Most people mess up once or twice. They're pretty fearful, you know, and you have a conversation, you tell them it's not that big a deal, you know, and, you know, they respond to that, they learn from that, and they become better players. So it's like, even in sales, man, and anything in real life, sometimes it's easier to train somebody without that sense of they're, you know, the best player in the world. And maybe they may or may not be, but you try to have a discussion with that person about, you know, hey, you know, you stood in fire again. And typically it doesn't go very well with that type of person. So yeah, give me a new player that can play our play times. I'll work with them all day.
Yeah, I keep telling people in the VOT because they know back in the day I used to do a lot of the hardcore stuff, that I'll take a player who's willing to learn over an experienced player any day. Because I can take that player that wants to learn and make him just kind of mold them into exactly what I need.
Oh, for sure.
Whereas experienced players, he's good, but he's going to have his weaknesses, and they're set in their ways.
Yep. And the same thing, man. You train that new player, all of a sudden they start to get loot. I mean, they're not that everybody isn't excited about loot, but I mean, when they get something and they got the first of an item on a server, you know, that's huge to them. I mean, that's, you know, it's a big sense of pride. You know, these games, there's such a time investment, and, you know, there is a sense of pride to your character because, like I said, it's like any other hobby that you may do. It's just something you put time in, and you're rewarded for your time that you put playing the game. As you get older, what you find, you have a lot of friends that you play games with. The problem with your friends is you always try to play together. You try to get the band back together. And people just can't. You know, people want to play and commit, but they just have real life obligations where they can't do it. So I went through a string for a while of, you know, constantly trying to rebuild the guild, get the band back together, to have people bail after a week or two just because they couldn't take the time commitments anymore. So that's why I guild with Faceless. I started to look for what's a like-minded group of individuals that I want to play with. And instead of trying to bring my friends back together, I tried to find a group of players that were already doing what I wanted to do. And I feel like as you get older, sometimes you have to do that. You have to go away from your kind of safe spot friends and reach out to something different if you really want to progress. And that's why Faceless, you know, it's very welcoming to players, where a lot of people have the misconception that it's not. So, you know, before Agnar, I mean, I knew of them, but I never played with them prior to Agnar. And, you know, now I've played through all of Agnar. I have some really good friends from Faceless. A lot of us obviously are playing in Pantheon. And yeah, can't wait to see what's next.
We're going to go on a brief community spotlight advertisement from us here at Pixel Debauchery. And when we come back, we're going to have some special guests from Faceless. Stay tuned, mother.
Pixel Debauchery is your only lewd and lascivious comedy variety podcast here on PantheonRadio.com. While listening to Pixel Debauchery, you can surely find all guild, community, and Pantheon Rise of the Fallen functionality. Pixel Debauchery. Check out PantheonRadio.com for showtimes. Don't use that singing short sword on me.
So this is Scribble, and we are back. I am joined here with Leksur. He's a commentator on Pixel Debauchery, and we have some members of the Faceless. We have Big Chint, we have Citadel, and we have Guild Leader Zaid in the house. Welcome, guys, and go ahead and give a description on what you do over at Faceless.
So hey everyone, my name is Citadel. I'm a long-time MMOer. I've been a member of Faceless for many years, officer member, and hoping to make Pantheon great.
Hey, I'm Zaid. I'm the owner and founder of Faceless. We run a series of guilds on a couple MMORPGs right now, primarily based in Everquest.
Hey, this is Big Chint, Wetness Richards from Faceless. Started with the Guild of Nagnar, and I'm hoping I can go hard in Pantheon, kill bosses really fast.
Welcome, welcome.
So I gotta ask, what's this Best Buy story I hear about all the time?
So when Lockjaw released, I was playing 3 of the accounts in our static group, right? I was playing the cleric and 2 mages. So basically, if at any time I'm not playing, they can't really go forward because I have no healer. And I would say it was on my sleep break. I think it was about 12 or 14 hours in, and I took a 4-hour sleep break, went to sleep. I wake up, my hard drive died, completely dead. And so I'm telling Zaid about this, but like, I'm not a computer guy. I don't even realize that it's my hard drive that's broken at this point. And Zaid does not believe me at all. He thinks I just want to sleep longer. So I don't really have many options. Like, it's not like I can order a new computer. I can't build one. So I just had to drive up to Best Buy, and I walked up to the first guy I saw, and I was like, I need to buy your most expensive gaming laptop right now. Like, just show me where it is. I don't care what it is. I need it right now, like instantly. And I did not realize how expensive gaming laptops were at the time. So it was about $1,800 at Best Buy, obviously. So I buy it, come home, and then obviously you don't just boot it up and start playing. You know, I have to install Windows. I have to do all the updates. I have to reinstall EQ. And so about 3 hours later, I finally got online. And I'm honestly still not sure if Zaid believes that that happened, or if I just wanted to sleep for 4 more hours.
Yeah.
What do you think, Zaid?
You know, the jury's out. The jury's out. We'll see in a couple more years.
Well, so
I mean, it's important to note that when we talk about sleep breaks, back in the Lockjaw era, it wasn't TrueBox, so you could play as many accounts on one computer as you wanted. So while Citadel was sleeping, we were playing as characters, and we had determined beforehand a sleep rotation that everyone was going to do to make sure that we slept but maintained 24/7 playtime throughout that process.
Very important, very important. So what computer did you buy?
It was the Asus Rogue, I think a JL maybe. I don't even own it anymore. And I thought about taking it back afterwards, but I was like, I kind of like this laptop, so I just kept it.
Doesn't even remember the laptop.
I just said what it was. It was an Asus Rogue JL, I think.
The investigation goes on.
Furiously Google's gaming laptops from 2012.
Right.
That's awesome.
But yeah, so as kind of an inside joke, ever since then, we've named our AFK channels Citadel's Best Buy channel.
See, that's the kind of stuff I like. That's So what about the wedding that he's been trying to go to for 6 months or 8 months?
Yeah, I feel like Citadel's been going to weddings like since. I tried
to get Citadel on an interview like two weeks ago or something. He's like, got a wedding, right?
Well, so I'm best man in the wedding. And nowadays weddings, you have the wedding party, you have the wedding shower, you have all this different stuff. And like, I'm in 2 separate weddings, so like you got to double it kind of. So I just don't know what weekends are good, right? For y'all and for me. So that wedding is the 14th, by the way. The first one, best man. I'll record the speech. I can send it in. All will be good.
So speaking of great funny stories, what else you guys got? Stories like the Malik story or the Defiant story we heard from when Seeger and Shucklighter were on the show?
I mean, I can start with the Malik story. It's pretty crazy. Yeah, unless it's already been told.
We've already kind of heard it before, but it's just such a fascinating story. We should probably go over it again.
Seeger wasn't actually, he was in a different static group, but me, Chint, and Citadel were all in that static group with Malik, so he could probably give a better take on it.
So first off, he's the worst EverQuest mage I think I've ever seen play. but we don't know that until the static starts.
He begged to get in the static group with us. We were like, no, we're gonna fill up with someone else. He wants to play a bard, and we were like, no, you can't play a bard. We're looking for a mage, and he did whatever it took and gave us all the guarantees that he could hang.
And that lasted about 12 hours, maybe 14 total. And so I guess the whole time he was taking some kind of like energy supplement that had a ton of magnesium in it. And so we go for our 4-hour break, and then he just doesn't show up. And we have no word from him for, I don't know how long you think it was, Dave, like 8 hours maybe?
Something like that.
And then we get someone to take over his account, and his password is like 100 characters long. So it takes forever to even get someone logged in. And so we're playing this whole time with like 5 people. We're getting not necessarily lapped in levels, but people are catching us. And then this dude just doesn't answer and finally comes back and explains to us what happened. He had to go to the hospital because his arms, his hands, his legs, and his feet were all swollen, and he couldn't even get up out of bed. And then he wanted to rejoin the leveling race to 50, and we basically just told him no and didn't log off his account until we were done.
Yeah, we had a friend jump in and grab that account in the meantime. So, but I mean, it was worse. Like even before that, he was just playing really poorly. Like he'd be firing lava bolts just right into corners, so they were doing nothing. We constantly had to wake him up. He was falling asleep like all the time. I mean, it was terrible. Man, I would love to see what it would be like if we had a reliable 6th in that group rather than him. I mean, we were still the first group to 50 by a decent margin, so it didn't hurt us too much, but it was a lot of hassle for no reason.
And his biggest problem was he never got up to take breaks. He never like took a shower break or anything, and made fun of us when it'd be like every 2 hours. It's like, I'm gonna go outside and I'm gonna run a little bit and then come back. But he just sat there the entire time, and then he got sick.
That's just asking for trouble.
You guys want to have people like prep their meals before static and things like that, just so they don't fall out like this guy.
Oh yeah, definitely. I don't want you anywhere near my static or any of the statics in the guild if you're not preparing for it, which means having a plan, basically. That's all it is, just having a plan. You can't just go in and be like, yeah, when I get tired, I'll fuck off or something.
What do you think, Lex? What do you got?
Well, it's like this. If you want to be one of the big boys, you got to act like one of the big boys. You got to come prepared. You got to do what you got to do. And it sounds like the guy's attitude was just right from the get-go a red flag for me.
He was also he was crazy too, because while we were doing this, he was also trying to create a bridge between EQ and Discord so that he could control his EverQuest character via Discord chat commands. It was just crazy. He had all these wild ideas, which were cool conceptually, but had no bearing or benefit on the situation at hand. Very head in the clouds.
Yeah, definitely sounds like something I'd try, just not something to rely upon, but something like I wonder.
During the race is not when you try new stuff.
Not when it's time to get down to business.
So I guess it was right when we got to Lower Guck, around level 28, maybe 30. The night before, I didn't get a good night's sleep, and we were all in Discord with a bunch of buddies talking, and we decided that our Faceless Guild on Lockjaw had a cleric that was willing to play me for a little bit while I took a nap. And I was a little hesitant, but everyone said, this guy's a good cleric, it'll be fine. So I take this 4-hour nap, and I swear when I got back, we had gained 10% XP. And apparently it was the worst idea of all time for me to go to sleep.
There were a lot of wipes.
You don't realize how critical certain members of your group are to the chemistry of it until they're gone. And this guy, who was purportedly a decent cleric, no shots at him, but he did a really terrible job, and we really struggled while he was there. And we were like, man, I don't remember these camps being so challenging, with this group comp. And then Citadel got back, and it was like night and day. Suddenly we started crushing content again, and went on to be successful.
Probably had something to do also with group chemistry. We had been playing together for at least 12 hours at that point, probably a lot more. And we all knew timing. We all knew everything about how everyone played. So, him coming in just like that, not used to the environment, probably accounted for a lot of it too.
Yeah, and something worth mentioning about that whole experience on Agnar in particular was that it was Chint's first time ever playing EverQuest, and he was in the static group with us, and he pulled his weight like with no issue the whole time. He was just crushing it.
Yeah, I was a little worried, to be honest, before we started, but you did great, man.
Yeah, I think that's another thing with, like, especially going into Pantheon now. A lot of people have been, like, carrying their weight around with all this EQ experience, years and years and years of it. But now, everything's going to be like people who are quick on their feet, people who can adapt to these new situations, stuff like that is really where we're going to see a lot of new people come and shine.
So I can tell you a story though, where Chint failed us all. So he was the first level 50 Shadow Knight on Agnar, which was our cue to start raiding major targets. At that point, we'd already killed Finny. I think we stopped at like 45 or 44 to kill Finny, which Chint tanked just fine. But we go to Lady Vox, and our monks at that point, most of our like real monk mains had rolled mages or other classes that were going to help with the leveling race. So we had like this second string group of monks trying to split out Lady Vox, and I knew it was going to be rough, especially for the first time because we're all like level 30 and have no gear. So that we eventually get it split after an agonizing experience. I think during that server first raid for Lady Vox, we promptly guild removed one of the enchanters because he summoned magic resist daggers and gave it to a charm pet. So we kicked him on the spot. Then we pulled Lady Vox, and I had prepped Chint for this before. I was like, okay, you're gonna have to. Now this is his first time seeing a dragon in EQ, and I was like, hey, you're using Gina. You're just gonna have to dodge around the wall, or you're gonna have to. No, he was gonna have to call the AEs every X number of seconds because he would always have the chat box triggering. And I don't remember what happened. Chint could probably speak to it better, but it was a disaster.
Yeah, it was just literally not knowing like when to call. I didn't know whether like AE out meant like, oh, the AE's done, now you leave, or if it's AE went. It was like you were saying, the first time I'd ever done it, and then also the fears, that shit got me because I had never been in that section. I had never walked over there, and so when I got feared, I just like didn't know where to walk back to. One of the times I fell.
Yeah, that was another thing. So Chint, having never really explored permafrost very much, when he got feared, got lost, and I think at some point fell into a pit instead of tanking. Oh, I remember what it was. You ran back, but she was still chasing you, and you basically ran Lady Vox behind the raid to where the clerics were.
I had like a max duration fear, and Lady Vox followed me while I was feared.
Yeah, it turned out would have been an easy server first into like a 20-minute agonizing experience, but we killed her, so whatever.
I got to ask a question. Chint, what's up with this avatar you got of Wolfgang Blitzer?
So, funny story. There was a joke going around about the new Smash Brothers game coming out, and one of the jokes was, I'm not going to play the new Smash Brothers unless Wolf Blitzer is a playable character. And as soon as I saw that, I was dying laughing, and I promptly made Wolf Blitzer my Discord avatar because I thought it was so funny.
Oh, man. Love it, love it, love it. Do we have any other great stories?
So there's this time, this is back on Lockjaw, so it was probably like circa 2012, 2013, I think. I forget, honestly. I think it was like 2013. And we were in Faceless Insanity at the time. We're already established as the top guild by a hefty margin. And we see that Khazak-Thul is spawned. So when he spawned, there was already a guild in there clearing fear, just for armored trash drops. And they were a semi-competitive guild that liked to race us. So we mobilized there really quickly. A third guild shows up. So now there's 3 guilds all in Plane of Fear. Now, if you know the Plane of Fear map, it's basically a big rectangular square. We've got one guild in the northeast corner by CT. We've got another guild in the northwest corner. And then we've got our guild. We had just rolled in, and we were pretty much just north of the west wall. So CT is walking around, and if you engage CT, he summons all the mobs to him in the zone that are still alive. They'll start walking towards him. But there's 4 mini bosses in the zone, 3 golems and a dragon, which will teleport right to him and behave like pets for him. They'll just follow him around and attack whoever's on his target list. So some of those mobs were up, which meant it was like this weird situation where whoever engaged one of the mini bosses first would be guaranteed to not get Khazak-Thul, who was the target, right? So there's this brinksmanship going on between the 3 guilds there. And while we're in there, Inaruk and Plane of Hate spawns, We see that and we're like, oh shit, so what do we do? And we see one of the guilds starts pouring us a Plane of Hate. So we make the call to have all of our casters bind right there in Plane of Fear. Then our wizards get together and we port everybody up except for my monk to Plane of Hate. We follow the other guild all the way up to Inneruk, and then we DPS race and ultimately win Inneruk. But while we're doing that, the guild that we left behind in Plane of Fear is trying to capitalize on our absence by clearing out the minis and shit like that. So it's just me on my monk there and this whole other guild. And what I do is I'm feign death, and every couple seconds I'll see their pull team going out trying to grab one of the minis. I'll stand up, I throw a javelin at CT, and then I feign before it hits him. So it hits him, it triggers his aggro, but he's got no one to aggro because I'm feign death. So he instantly warps all the mini bosses to him right as the pull team is engaging them, which puts all the aggro of CT, the other 3 golems, and Draco Lich all on the pull team. And it keeps getting their pull team killed over and over. And we do that for, like 5 or 10 minutes until we kill Interrupt and get back. And they were super salty about that. So all of our guys just gate back. We TL our melee back to Kazakh and they start running back to the zone. And we promptly just grab CT. Draco Lich is trained over to us. We start kiting him away. We kill CT, grab Draco, kill him. We win all the DPS races. And the other guilds just kind of go home empty-handed. But it was totally wild. It was probably one of my favorite competitive experiences in EQ, just because of how dynamic and how many players were all involved at the time.
I can just imagine that other guild. I mean, if I were in their shoes, I would be super pissed too. But being on the upside of that, it's can't help but laugh a little bit.
There was a lot of bad blood between our guild and that guild in particular. They were like notorious for really playing the political game and petitioning a lot and crying to GMs. So we had created a rotation on our server shortly after becoming the top guild, just to try to make the environment a little bit more friendly. And it involved a lot of free-for-all days, which we tended to win. So the rotation ensured that any quality rating guild got content, but it also ensured that we had the lion's share of content. So it wasn't a perfectly fair and equal rotation. This bothered that guild a lot. So they eventually petitioned enough that DBG, because of what's going on Lockjaw, what's going on Ragefire, they say, hey, you guilds have to have a mandatory rotation. You have to do it. And we're like, okay, well, what are the rotation rules? And Daybreak is like, no, you guys have to make the rules, and we'll just enforce whatever you make. So we realize that it's going to be pretty bad for us, right? Because no one wants to work with the top guild. We know that the casual guilds, which there's a lot of on our server, will never really catch up to us. But if we have this weird rotation situation with perfect parity, the second and third place guilds could eventually catch us in terms of gearing and stuff like that. So our strategy becomes, let's make the dumbest rotation possible that all the casual guilds will agree with, and they'll vote yes, and it'll make it impossible for Daybreak to enforce. So the rotation that we propose, and there's 15 guilds somehow who get on this rotation agreement, is that whenever a raid mob spawns, whoever's day it is for that raid has a full 24 hours before they have to kill that mob. So it decreases the number of raid mobs that will spawn in an expansion significantly, because people take a long ass time. Then we say that certain zones are raid zones, and you can't kill anything in those zones if it's not your scheduled day. So the big point of contention here is that we get Plane of Sky declared a specifically raid-only zone. Now, there's a few islands of Plane of Sky where you could just go there with 2 people and kill shit. The guild that we have a particularly high level of animosity with has a very loose recruiting standard, so they're just taking a bunch of randoms in their guild all the time. One of these guys, he's a recruit. He goes up, he engages some shit in Plane of Sky, just some mob that will respawn in 2 hours. No one cares about it, but it's not their rotation day. So we get a video of it. We're like, hey, you're breaking the rotation. He's like, hey, fuck off. We petition, and Daybreak, totally wild, suspends the entire guild. And this guild raids on 2 servers. So it's a couple hundred accounts. They can't raid on either of their servers. Totally wild. So even the members who aren't active on Lockjaw can't even raid because half their guild is suspended due to some shit on another server. And shortly thereafter, the whole rotation thing with Daybreak kind of starts to fall apart between the drama that caused and the drama on Ragefire. It just all went to shit, and it destroyed the mandatory rotation situation.
Wow.
That's kind of amazing that one person could screw it up for everybody that bad. I don't know what Daybreak was thinking, actually. I don't know if I'd do it that way.
Yeah, it was a terrible idea. And, you know, we warned them. We talked to them extensively. And one of the other things that kind of broke the camel's back on this is that the opposition would cry so much and submit so many petitions. It was really overwhelming the customer service people. And we were in these voice chats for like 4 to 6 hours doing rotation agreements, and Daybreak people would be involved in that process. So we had, like, I think it was Paistro. You know, so many Daybreak staff members have come and gone over the years. I forget exactly who it was, but it was like 8 p.m. on a Friday Pacific time, and one of the Daybreak guys was still in there, like, talking to us. And I realized at that moment that the rotation was not going to last much longer, because I was like, this guy is at work, you know, at 8 p.m. on a Friday because of some nerds fighting over fake dragons. And sure enough, that kind of shit is what got it canned in the end.
What do you think? What do you think Pantheon needs to do?
Ooh, I hope it's FFA all the way.
All the way? Yeah. There needs to be some mechanics to be put in place, because it happens all the time. It happens on Project 99. It happens on these TLP servers.
I have a very clear vision for why it fails on TLP servers and why it should not fail on Pantheon. The first thing is that when we look at P99 and we look at TLP servers, it tends to be 1 or maybe 2 servers with thousands, like, you know, in the case of like Agnar or Finnegal, like 15,000 players packed onto one server. That's a lot of competition for 4 raid mobs. There's simply not enough resources, right, to field that player base. Now, originally Q had a lot of competition, but it wasn't so toxic and there wasn't so much crying about it because, one, all those players who wanted to raid were split between like 50 servers. So there was a lot more room for players to experience content. But another really important factor in this, one, not everyone knew everything about the game. They didn't know how to get to max level. They didn't know what raid mobs were, etc. So it was harder. And 2, the experience rate was much slower, right? So the fast EXP that we see on TLP servers in particular makes the server very rapidly become top heavy. And so people fight for those resources. I think at Pantheon, it should be extremely, extremely slow, so that by the time the bulk of the player base hits max level and is ready to raid, the very hardcore subset of that player base has already exhausted most of that raid content and is kind of ready to share or move on. I think just letting the content gate itself be its own bottleneck like that will save a lot of headache in the long run.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that.
Yeah.
I don't see any issue with that. I do understand that the casual needs their own set of rating, some kind of way for them to not have to compete so bad on maybe 1 day or 2 days. Because I've been there when, you know, I've waited around for a piece of a singing short sword for 2 years, and, you know, shit like that happens. So yeah, rating's big. They need to figure it out.
Yeah, I'm also a little weird. Like, I don't mind the really top heavy. Like, Zay knows one of my favorite things is when there's incredible amounts of competition, and then we just get to poop sock for 5 hours. Because then I get to sit there with all my friends and just hang out, and then we win a dragon. And it's just a good night. What else am I going to do? Farm more money that I don't need?
Exactly. That's what you do, right? You just roll more characters to beef up the army of characters you already field. But we used to, like, a lot of guilds, you know, they're not good at the logistics of mobilizing. So they would try to race us a few times. They would lose pretty horribly. And then those guilds inevitably start poop socking, right? They just go to where the dragon spawns and they just wait there for like 24 plus hours. And eventually we'll show up too and we'll wait there because we're not gonna, you know, if we let them win with that strategy, then we're gonna have to poop sock all the time. So when someone does that, you have to really quickly show them that it's not worth the time investment for them because it's gonna result in nothing. But anyway, so we would just sit there. I remember a lot of times just sitting there playing Hangman with people in like Vent or TeamSpeak at the time, waiting for this dragon to spawn, or just standing there. And then it would spawn and like 10 seconds later we'd kill it, win the DPS race, everyone would go home, and, you know, usually there wouldn't be a lot of socking after that. On Lockjaw, at some point, Lockjaw had classic EverQuest for 6 months, which is a really, really long time to be trapped fighting only 4 raid mobs every week. And so once the rotation had fallen apart and everything, and their strategy basically was to bring 300 people and sit them on top of dragon spawns. And sometimes they would win. They like to pick Plane of Sky mobs in particular, like Noble de Jorn, the Afridi cycle, because those mobs were immune to magic damage effectively, and we ran with a lot of magic DPS at that time. But the fun part of this story is they were doing it in permafrost one time, right? They really wanted Lady Vox, and so we're sitting there for a while, and they really, really, really outnumber us, and we're like, you know what? We'll just camp all of our guys here. We'll see what happens. So all but like 2 or 3 of our folks camp out, and those guys are just hanging out, watching these 300 people sock against nothing for like 20 hours. Eventually, Lady Vox spawns, and they go to engage her. Now, if you know the area around Lady Vox, she's got a bunch of pits where you can fall in. They're like trap pits, and you're underneath her lair. There's like a bunch of bears and bullshit down there. But there's one particular mob down there called the Chilling Terror, and it's an out-of-era mob. It shouldn't really exist on TLP servers in this era, but it does like wild rampage. It hits for a ton. And somehow or another, while these people are fighting what should have been a free Lady Vox kill, the Chilling Terror ends up on top of their raid in the middle of the fight. And all of these people wipe. So we have like this screenshot, which I'll link here in a minute to show you guys, with tons of bodies and people running around. And basically our 3 people, I think it was a wizard, a Shadow Knight, and a druid, just walk up and kill Lady Vox, what's left of her, as they're wiping. It was just wild. And after that, there was no more poop socks on Lockjaw. And hey, I don't blame those guys. Some people get really upset about it. They're like, man, you guys are scum for the way you play, that kind of thing. That doesn't really bother me. I understand that when you're a guild leader, you need to do whatever it takes to help, give content to your guild. So I don't begrudge those guys anything that they did.
Well, to me, being in a kind of a similar situation at one point is, if someone's going to do scummy tactics, then you've got to do scummy tactics right back in order to actually compete. It's the way it works.
Yeah, I agree with that. Like, we never really initiate drama or trains or anything like that, even in the raid setting where we compete pretty hard. But once guilds open up that door and they start raiding a certain way against us, we come back with that same kind of philosophy with them.
You don't really have a choice.
Yeah, I remember on Project 99 that they would have to fraps pretty much every raid encounter because somebody would say that they did something wrong, and they'd like Photoshop it or make it look precarious and try to get them suspended. That happens all the time, man.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, even on live, it's so easy to log into an emulator, create someone named the name of your most hated rival, and have them send a bunch of crazy tells, you know what I mean, to try to sabotage them. That's the kind of things that we've seen. So you really have to have a level of trust established before you'll even bother with that kind of evidence. So if you guys look below, I have that screenshot there I was telling you about. It was spiced up a little bit for some humor. That was when the song Wrecking Ball was really big.
That's great.
And so the guild that led that effort to fight us became slightly a thorn in our side in the next expansion, but they quickly died. However, there's one really well-known example of them screwing up in front of everyone before they died out. They were in the Dreadlands, and a guild named MIM, Magus, Imperialist Magicus, they were fighting Gornair. And MIM is a great guild. I love those guys. They're super respectable, and I've never really had any bad experiences with them. So I just want to put that out there. Those guys are great. But they're fighting Gornair, and at this point, only Faceless had killed Gore on the server. And Gore, because of the mitigation of the mighty buffs, is like super tough because the slow just wrecks the very heavy melee DPS basis of most guilds. So anyway, they're fighting Gore, and we see this other guild that we're not big fans of mobilizing. They get a huge force there, and they're just waiting. And Mim wipes to Gore and gets her down to like 20%. And this other guild charges gore at 20% for their, this guild has never killed Gornair before. So their guild first kill, if they were successful, would have been jumping this mob at less than a fifth of its health and killing it off of someone else's hard work. But fortunately for everybody involved, it didn't work out. And even though Gore was only at 20% health, they still wiped disastrously. And then they started trying to bind rush. They were binding and just charging and charging and charging and trying to res Zerg, and it never even worked. She, regenerated all the way to full. And we got it all on video, and it made a really good video. We posted it on the Daybreak forums, and that got my forum account IP banned. So that sucked, but it was worth it.
Nice.
Gornair's tough, man. That's the epitome.
That's a big wake up call for a lot of raiders.
And she's just worthless. Like, doesn't drop anything anybody wants.
Kunark is really bad about that. The loot in Kunark is just trash.
Isn't Gore for some epics, I think?
Yeah.
Only the same ones that you could get from Lady Vox, though.
Right. Yeah, and it's rarer on Gore, isn't it?
I'm not. Honestly, I don't even know.
I don't remember either. It's been too many years. I just remember people logging in during that era when that was still, just like a month old maybe. And Gore's up, and it's like, so what?
So if you go to YouTube, even to this day, it looks like, unless this is just, my search bias here, and you type in Gornair in the search bar, the first video it brings up is that video of them wiping. It's called Faceless Presents Gornair in Her Natural Habitat.
Does the Faceless do a lot of this type of thing, like troll your unsuccessful rivals?
I would say we don't. We really don't. But inevitably, there ends up being a guild, you know what I mean, that you have animosity with, and depending on how far they push it, we push back. And with this particular guild, it got to that level where we were really focused on showing people their scummy tactics, and because they really like to play it up like they were these noble people on the forums, and that we were like this terrible group of evil guys. And we wanted to show everyone, like, hey, these guys are scum. The way they play is terrible, and what they say is not how they behave.
Right.
And for as long as I remember being a member or officer, we've always had the rule, you stay out of open communication channels, because you're just asking to get a suspension or a ban or, something like that. But there's always one that, can't follow.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, and another thing we found out at that time, on the Life of Lockjaw, we discovered that when a player is feared by an NPC, in this case, feared by the AoE from dragons, you are counted as an NPC by the game, right? Because the game takes over your character and it runs you in a random direction. So in terms of the code, it treats you as an NPC, which means player characters can attack you.
Yes.
So when this guild would be doing their rotation targets, we would show up and because it's rotation, we cannot contest them. We can't fight them for the mob. But you can go up to their main tank, and when the fear goes out, all your wizards can nuke them to death. And so that was definitely something that happens sometimes.
So are all you guys going down for Pantheon?
Oh yeah.
Yes, sir.
Not me.
No.
I'm a little behind at the moment, but as soon as Alpha hits, I'll get going.
So you're planning on hitting it hard in Alpha? Is that what you said, Citadel?
Oh yeah. I mean, as soon as I get access to Alpha, I don't know what the schedule's going to be like, or if it'll be an open Alpha or what, but yeah, I'm 100% in.
Mm-hmm. Is there a lot of people that are on the fence about it?
Yeah, there's definitely guys. There's a good number of people in Faceless, and I imagine most guilds who still don't believe in Pantheon. They think it's probably not going to happen.
Mm.
But we've slowly won them over as time goes on, and really the Pantheon team has won them over with all the streams and everything. Every time there's a stream, the game just looks better and better.
Yeah, I don't give them blind faith. I think they have to work for any kudos I'm going to give them, but they definitely looks like a good game right now.
Yeah, we do have a large number of VIP backers, people who backed at the VIP various tiers. I would say we have a little over 30 people at that tier right now.
There's a lot considering how much that tier costs, I think.
Yeah, so there's a lot of support in the guild.
Yeah, I haven't pulled the trigger yet. I mean, I'm there for beta, but I haven't pulled the trigger for the alpha yet. So the thing that gets me is I don't like boxing. I mean, I wish they would address the boxing thing, but I understand. It'd be fine if it was like 2, but I don't want to see like 6 boxers and things like that.
Yeah, I'm also in the same boat there. You know, I'm fine with small boxing, but I prefer that it wasn't really viable in the game.
And did y'all read the new tank info? I really like that.
That was one of the things that like gave me a lot of confidence.
Oh yeah, they put a lot of work
reading
into
all of that. Ooh.
Dire Lord threw me for a loop. I'm actually I got faith in the vision. I'm gonna wait until I play it till I make any judgments.
Oh, yeah. So I was looking at Dire Lord, and from a raid leader perspective, I can see so clearly how powerful the Dire Lord is going to be. Maybe not as a main tank. You know, we'll have to see how it actually plays out. But some of their abilities, particularly the abilities that make you immune to magic damage. I mean, you have 6 Dire Lords and you just run a chain. You know what I mean? And you stand in AEs and shit. It's going to be amazing.
They're going to be the interesting tank, which is why I'm willing to stand behind their decision, even though like I love my plate armor. But that's just a like, oh, he slapped me in my vanity kind of thing.
And then they had that ability, the one where it reflects poison and disease damage.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, could you imagine Trachanon doing his AoE and you just reflect it back at him and he's like instantly dead? Like, I don't know how that's gonna work.
I'm sure.
I'm sure there'll be like immunities for raid mobs and stuff, but the important part is just being able to prevent that. You know, magic is typically a major source of damage for raid mobs, so the power of that on the raid level is probably incredible.
So another thing with the Dire Lord is it's going to be like, you know, as a tank, you have to pay attention. You have to know what all your abilities do. You have to know what you're doing.
Gosh, you got loud.
I'm so tired of MMOs today where it's just like smash your keyboard and then you win.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going healer 100%, so I'm waiting for the healer reviews.
Yeah, I'm doing the bard then the healer too. So I'm thinking right now that what's got me excited is the druid right now, because it's going to be I guess he's going to pull from the environment to heal. So that's kind of neat. We'll see more.
Cool.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. I'm excited to see the druid because I think there's a lot of room for real originality there that we haven't seen in a lot of healing classes lately.
Plus, I'm just tired of the cleric right now. I raided cleric for years, so it'd be neat to see if the druid can actually hang.
I'm also really liking the tanks giving like groups and raids utility. Like even though it may be like a small buff, you know, that small buff could be the difference.
You know, when it comes down to the wire, you know, I've seen raids make it by with 100 hit points on the last person.
I just love everything that gives tanks more utility than just standing in front of a boss and getting
right.
hit.
Yeah, because I mean, let's take your typical tank and spank mob or raid boss. You know, what does the extra tanks that you brought along do? You know, they basically sit on auto attack and go get a drink. There's not nothing
worse DPS.
Yeah, but you needed them to clear the trash. So
I think that they'll really have to strike a balance in providing content that requires multiple tanks, really, or maybe even ways for multiple tanks to be necessary or involved on a single raid encounter.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it seems like Warrior already has that one ability. I think it was Shield of Walls, maybe? Where
yeah,
the 2 warriors share the damage.
Shield wall thing.
Yeah.
Which is an actual proper shield wall, sounds like, which is kind of amazing.
And then you'd want to obviously put a paladin in that warrior group so you could get the AC buff and, you know. But that could all change by launch, right?
Oh, yeah. Everything's subject to balance.
Yep. Got to be careful not to break it too much during testing phases, alpha and beta and all that. Otherwise, you'll get it nerfed.
Yep.
No, but actually, you know, it's important that the testers at all stages do everything they can to break and abuse all the content so that it doesn't get trivialized during the actual release. If you actually care about the game, it should be your mission as a tester to abuse the content as thoroughly as possible.
Oh yeah, I mean it should be a requirement.
Sid, why don't you tell them about the sleeper on Agnar? That's a good story.
Ooh, okay. So I guess it probably started early Classic, because this isn't Faceless's first server. I mean, everyone knows how the sleeper encounter works now with the king and everything. But so basically, they asked us what we were planning on doing. Were you gonna wake the sleeper early, or were we gonna just let it hang out for a month and a half or whatever, so other people can get items? But the biggest problem with sleeper is some of the gear is droppable. And so what we decided to do as a guild was that we're going to kill it as soon as possible and nobody gets any loot at all. Doesn't matter what drops, we're going to delete it all, or we're going to give it to classes that cannot use it. And surprisingly, the guild was pretty open to it overall, I would say. A couple of people were upset, but I mean, overall it went over pretty good. Yeah, like that one. And so what ends up happening on launch day is, I would say we kind of got screwed over by the server. So we zone into one of the entry zones and it's completely destroyed. You can't zone out of it, we're stuck there. So any guild that took any other route to get to raid mobs was gonna beat us. But they're just not as fast to mobilize, not as talented, didn't have enough people, whatever it may be. So we end up getting every mob we want early on, and then we find out that 3 guilds had kind of made a little alliance, and that they were going to try and get as many keys as they could so they could wake the sleeper first. But we didn't realize this for a while. And I'll be honest, myself, I was a little worried that they might actually beat us. But then you look at who the guilds are, and we realized that it wasn't going to be that big of a deal. So then we had to change our plan up, and we just started farming keys like crazy. Get in as soon as possible. The guilds that were trying to go against us end up, I think they spent 6 hours, 6.5, Zaid, if you know exactly.
Yeah, it was 6 hours for their instance to run out and everything.
And so they weren't able to wake the sleeper, and then, we were able to go in later that night and just wake it, no big deal. But it was probably the most fun I've had in EQ in 5 or 6 years, because it was actual competition.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. The 3 guilds allied, they were working. The leader of the alliance was basically a guy named Tickle, who's a great EQ player and a really great guy. I think, what he did was smart, and I think it was a good move on his part. But anyway, they allied, and they go and they try to, we figure out that they're going to try to wake the sleeper. So we're looking at who we give our sleeper's tomb keys to. And instead of our normal priority, we give it to our monks first, right? So then me and another monk, we go into Sleeper's Tomb while the guild finishes up the raid content, because we still want to kill everything in Velius really quickly. So they're finishing up raid content. We have me and another monk sitting in Sleeper's Tomb and basically playing zone defense. Anyone who zones into Sleeper's Tomb that is not wearing our guild tag is going to have a rough zoning experience when they get in there. So we do that, and the competition, the 3 guild alliance, decides that, or I don't know exactly what their plan was, right? But unable to get into Sleeper's Tomb because of a wall of mobs that they keep encountering when they zone in, they go to the instanced version of Sleeper's Tomb and they attempt to kill all the warders there. Now that won't wake the sleeper, but it's going to generate a bunch of the one of a kind sleeper's loot, which we had promised to destroy. So they struggle a lot with this. They have like 25 or 30 people down there, and they wipe and they wipe and they wipe a ton of times. So they finally get down to where there's only 1 warder left, but it took them 6 hours. And so they get like 2 attempts on the final warder, and they wipe both times, and they just can't do it. So then we walk into the open world finally at that point, 22 hours after the expansion launched. And we wake the sleeper. Our final warder fight, because we only had like 21 or 22 people in there, took 35 minutes, I want to say. But yeah, so, within 22 hours of the expansion opening, we'd cleared all the raid content, gone to Sleeper's Tomb, and woken the sleeper, and we destroyed all the loot there. So no one would ever have any of the, really specific, valuable loot to sell or anything. The monk robes, which are particularly valuable, we gave to 2 classes that couldn't use them, so those accounts could never be sold for anything. It was a really big success, I guess, in that sense. And one of the reasons we wanted to do it is just because no one had ever done it before. Everyone usually goes wild for the Sleeper's Tomb loot, and there's always a lot of drama about it. And we just wanted to say, hey, it's not really a big deal to us. So we just destroyed it all, trashed it, and left. The funny thing, the cherry on top of all this, was I had said months and months earlier that, hey, we were going to do this. And people were like, no, you won't. So we did it. That was fun. And then a day after we woke the sleeper, Daybreak released their, Velius Agnar news release, which said, all the things you could do in Velius as a raider or just casual player. And one of the things was like, hey, you have this rare opportunity to experience Sleeper's Tomb in the pre-awakened state. But by the time that news release came out, we had already woken the sleeper 12 hours beforehand.
And I have to give that alliance credit, not necessarily in the execution of their plan, but not one player in any of the guilds said anything or leaked anything. That's pretty impressive.
That's kind of huge.
I never understood why people woke the sleeper. I don't get it. You guys get it? Explain it to me.
So originally on TLP servers, it was a requirement to wake the sleeper to progress. So you just had to do it or else you were stuck in Velius forever.
Oh, okay.
But they changed that, so you don't have to do that anymore. For us, I think there's a bit of a notoriety to it, but now that there's instances in particular, you can't control when the sleeper's gonna wake up. Back in the old days, even on Lockjaw and Ragefire, you could, as the top guild or any group of guilds, lock down access to the Sleeper's Tomb key mobs, and you could create a rotation with guilds that you trusted to farm the warders, and everyone was happy. And a lot of guilds on a lot of servers did that. But now that there's instances, every person, every group can get Sleeper's Tomb keys. Even 12 people can kill Zlandakar, and eventually they'll have enough keys to go in and kill the warders, because you can kill them with 20 people if you don't suck. And that level of risk, especially when guilds are willing to ally, just means that someone is going to wake it, right? There's just too much. Everybody on all sides. It's like if everyone had nukes pointed at each other, right? There's that mutually assured destruction kind of thing. Everyone wants to wake it if they have the opportunity because they think someone else will wake it first, and that's what it comes down to now. So it's like, hey, if we don't wake it today, we could go to sleep. Some other guild will sneak in and wake it, and I don't want to have to monitor Sleeper's Tomb 24/7 for the next 6 months. So we're gonna cut all the drama, cut all the BS, wake immediately.
And the RMT factor, I think, of some of the items. An SOD would sell for $1,500, but if there's no SODs, then no problems.
Yeah, it's a notorious RMT hotspot because the loot everyone knows has a finite lifespan. It's the only loot in the game that there's going to be a very limited number of, and so people will get it and sell it. And even really talented players that have been with you for a long time, we've seen it in guilds all across the years. Something about Sleeper's Tomb loot, they will sell their character. Valuable members in your guild will sell their character or sell their loot, which is practically the same thing because you kick them out either way. Because when you're looking at $1,500 for an account or $2,000 for an account or an item, for a lot of guys who play video games 16 hours a day, that's a lot of money. It's just too much for them to pass up, and you lose valuable players. There's a lot of drama, makes everyone look bad, and so we just axed that whole process so that it just could not happen to us.
I don't get RMT, real money trading. Man, even the cash shops nowadays, even cosmetic stuff, to do that stuff, I think, in my personal opinion, you're out of your freaking mind, for one thing. You're telling me you're going to spend real life money on a pixel? Fuck that.
Yeah, I mean, it's really big in EQ, unfortunately. Yeah. And, one of the things behind, because we could have woken the sleeper like that and just kept all the loot and been like, yeah, hey, we trust our guys not to sell it. But one of the big points about destroying even the loot that we got is that there was a sense of fairness to it. We're not just saying that you guys, the rest of the server, cannot have any of this loot. We're saying it won't exist at all. We're not doing it. We're not gaining any benefit from this. Really, we're destroying it. It's equal. It's fair.
Nice.
Honestly, it's a let's cut out all the shit move.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Nip it in the butt right away.
Yep, and so that's what we did. And Faceless was the top guild on Lockjaw as well, and the crew there kept the sleeper asleep for 9 months, and they rotated the warders with the entire server, and when they finally woke it, they did it as a server event, and all the guilds that had keys came and they did it in a big group of 300 people. So Faceless has been on both sides of that coin. We're not just there to, you know, to kill your dogs and eat your babies. We're just doing whatever the outlook of the server at that time kind of dictates.
So where's the guild at right now?
Yeah, so right now, we have the guild on Lockjaw still. They are in Omens of War, getting ready for Dragons of Norath, new expansion coming up pretty soon. They continue to accrue all the server firsts on all the expansions for that server, and they likely will for the life of the server, because once you're top guild for a certain amount of time, you experience what I like to call top guild inertia. No one's ever gonna dethrone you. The only way that a top guild usually loses is that it implodes or self-destructs on itself. On Agnar, of course, we were the top guild for the entire life of the server. We defeated all the content first, usually by a significant margin. We cleared Classic, Kunark, Lucklin faster than anybody had ever done it before. Valius is tricky to really track that kind of thing, because if you count waking the sleeper, then like most people don't try to wake it very fast, so that doesn't really count. But yeah, we broke all of our goals, our own metrics that we wanted to hit in terms of how fast we wanted to clear content on Agnar. So Agnar was an extreme success for us, and our guys continue to farm there. I think Lost Dungeons of Norath is coming out there pretty soon, but it's kind of like, you know, it's kind of like the after party. Plain of Time was really the final raid zone on Agnar. We do have a small group of casual players playing on a private WoW emulated server right now that does like classic WoW. We wanted to go pretty hard there at first, but the passion just wasn't there with the leadership, I guess, in terms of playing WoW at that level. Personally, I'm not a big fan of WoW. I tried it out, I couldn't get into it. And the guys who stuck around and wanted to keep the guild going there, or, you know, it was before launch that we really made that decision. So the guys that really wanted to run the guild there and do it, we were like, hey, you know, just go casual, play there if you want, but we're not gonna go crazy. So that's how it is right now. We have a casual WoW guild. We have 2 hardcore EverQuest guilds. And as to what the future holds, hopefully a lot of Pantheon, hopefully soon. But other than that, we'll just have to see what comes up.
So I don't know if you heard the interview with Sweeney that I did a couple weeks ago. He said that a lot of Fires of Heaven forum members come over to the Faceless. Do you know that? You know about that?
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. We have a very healthy relationship, I guess, if you can have one, right, with Fires of Heaven forums. We've got one. A lot of those guys are Faceless guys. It's hard to separate the two. You know what I mean? They're just members of both. And yeah, I mean, I myself have been posting on FOH for years and years and years. I've got thousands of posts there, mostly active in the EQ and MMO threads. So we have a big base of players from FOH, but we, you know, most guilds in EQ, most top guilds have a lot of pals who hang around the FOH forums. It's just kind of how it works. So our competition or our rivals or whatever you want to call them, you know, they've also got some members, but I think Faceless probably has more guys from FOH playing with us, from FOH forums playing with us than any other EQ guild. Maybe there's like one other guild that has a similar number.
Yeah, I'm sure you got lots of enemies too that hang on that forum too. Because it's just a large
yeah.
starting out.
The forum, I mean, FOH forums are great. I really can't say enough. I hope it continues to grow because it's just a hotspot. It's fun. It's where you go to have some good drama and just bullshit with people. And people don't take it seriously. You can go there and tell someone to fuck off, call them mean names, and at the end of the day, no one takes it personally. You're still friends, or you're at least on the same level that you were beforehand. So
the big thing is the honest feedback. Even if it's not honest, it's just mostly trolling, but you can get some pretty honest and brutal feedback from the FOH forums. I appreciate it.
I just love that we have that kind of a place still for EQ. I mean, as old as the game is.
Yeah, definitely. So, Citadel, I haven't heard from you much. What do you think makes Faceless different from other hardcore raiding guilds?
For me, I guess, I mean, I've been with Faceless for a long time, since we did the test server guild. And, you know, Zayd's always been there from the beginning, so to me, just so much of the leadership has really stuck around. Like Meme or Randrus from Test, I mean, he's played with us every server, and no one ever really gets super like hardcore, right? Like, I mean, we're a hardcore guild. We clear content incredibly fast, incredibly efficiently, but you can make a mistake and we're not going to chastise you for it or kick you out of the guild instantly. Like, it really is kind of a family within the guild, right? Like, we don't want to hate people. We want to push you, but we don't want to make fun of you. We don't want to make you feel bad, etc. But I mean, obviously there's limits to everything like that. But I've been in other guilds where, I mean, I'll name it OGC on Finny, to where, I mean, I love Dima, he's a good leader, but he just pushed people so hard that you start losing respect for the leadership and the whole view of the guild as a whole.
Did they ever call you out in front of people, make you feel less than
Me,
worthy?
no. But I mean, I've seen it happen to other people.
That's something that doesn't happen in the Faceless?
Not very often. I mean, if you make a mistake, I mean, obviously we're going to point it out to you, but you're not going to get instantly booted from the guild. Like, it's not going to be crazy, like I've seen in other guilds. And like, we don't want people to have to play 90 hours a week or 120 hours a week, whatever it may be. I mean, we've had casual members in every guild we've ever had. Like, it's a big part of our player base.
What about you, Chint? What do you think?
I think like one of the big things is just like the amount of I guess skill's a good word. It's a big group of a lot of like really good players, and that's, you know, you can really start building in an environment like that. Good players helping other good players, even if you get casuals in there. I was brought up in an EQ world filled with, you know, literally the best players of EQ, and so, you know, going forward, you know, you're in this thriving environment that will continue to thrive always, pretty much.
Gives you room to improve. Is that something Faceless does? They mentor you well?
Yeah, everyone can improve. I mean, like I was saying, I went from, you know, 0 to, I wouldn't say hero. I was not a chump, though.
I heard that you were brand new to Everquest when you went into the static group.
I had played like maybe 2 or 3 times.
So it's a pretty big achievement. Going right from playing a couple times to you know, sleeping 4 hours a night or less in a static.
I think another big thing is like personal responsibility, giving everyone the opportunity to really prove themselves.
Yeah, I'd say so. In terms of calling people out, it really depends on the situation. Sometimes in the middle of a race, you just don't have time to grill somebody in the middle of a competition. But, you know, we've had times where if a player is wasting the raid's time, you got to drop them from the raid, but we don't make a big scene out of it. You know, we're like, hey, come back tomorrow or whatever. And then you sit down with that player after the raid and you talk to them and you look at how you can improve them. So I'm certainly not there to demean another adult over a video game. I expect you to pull your weight, to play your best, and to improve no matter how good you are. Even some of these guys who are some of the best players I played with, I think every time we do it a little better. So that's the expectation, and I think we give people a fair shot at meeting that expectation, and we treat them like adults, and the response we get because of that is really good.
Yeah, because I want to squash the stigma with these hardcore raiding guilds that you can't be casual. You will get yelled at if you do something wrong. That's just not happening with you guys.
Yeah, I mean, certainly there's no reason for me to yell at someone. I mean, you can be professional while guild removing someone. That's my mindset. So if it really comes down to that, I would most likely remove someone before I screamed at them. It's just, it's uncalled for.
And it's not something you do regularly, right? That's just.
Oh yeah, no.
It's how many times have you done that?
Remove someone from the guild.
Yeah.
Well, I'm a notorious softy on this, so not a lot, but usually, if you have not been in the guild for a long time, right? If you're in your first 30 days, the odds of you being removed for poor play or doing something totally dumb are higher. Once you've been in for a while, people have bad days, that kind of stuff, or sometimes things are going on with that player. And we take all that into account, and we become friends, right? And you don't just turn your back on your friend. But when people abuse other guild members, we have pretty much a zero. Not even pretty much. We have a zero tolerance policy for abusing other guild members, right? So if you're really being a distraction or harassing someone, that's going to be a boot. Real money trading, like selling shit that the guild has helped you acquire, that's going to be a boot. So it's a lot of things like that. It's more ethical things that you're going to get kicked out of the guild for, because performance can improve, and usually when you give someone a chance, it does improve. Now, I think the last time we kicked someone was this last expansion launch on Agnar. We had a person who was consistently fucking up Wrath Council, which, you know, when it came out was a hard encounter, but these days is really like the rest of EQ, very easy. And this person caused she didn't cause the raid to wipe, but she caused the encounter to reset and wasted a lot of time in a server first race kind of scenario. And it was such an egregious series of failures that person did not want to own up to, but was apparent in the logs, that we removed that member because we felt that they didn't carry the tag in a way that we could condone. It was kind of embarrassing for us. So we didn't want that to be a part of it. That's kind of how it is. I mean, owning your mistakes is huge in how things go, right? If you hit me up and you're like, hey, that was my fault, I missed this trigger or something, I'm like, okay, hey, you recognize it, you're taking responsibility, let's make it not happen again, and we move on. But if you're trying to deny it and you're fighting with officers, that kind of thing, it's rapidly going to back you into a corner where the only way for you to go is out the door.
So Lex, what do you think over there?
I'm kind of stuck on Jesus. Where were you guys 15 years ago? Actually, no, 18 years ago.
18 years ago.
God damn, I feel old.
Yeah, man.
Because my raiding experience, mind you, I was the guild leader at the time, and I was going through a lot of really, really hard shit, and I took it out on everybody around me, but I gave people results, which is why people stuck with it. But if I had the Faceless around back then, I think things would have been much different for me.
What is the Faceless going to be doing that first week that Pantheon launches into full access?
Not sleeping.
Your type of guild will be the guys that take off for vacation and be playing 24 hours a day.
Oh yeah, that's absolutely my expectation, my hope. All my members are very experienced grinders who have no problem. I mean, it's just a given that everyone's going to have time off from work. We're going to be playing until you fall asleep at your desk, pretty much.
So if someone in the audience says, well, that's a bunch of neckbeards, what do you say to them?
Well, it's really, it comes down to a hobby, right? We have a hobby and that we want to enjoy to the absolute utmost that we can. Our day-to-day play style, you know, throughout the life of a game or a server is not really like that. But we understand how critical those first couple weeks are. And so we really maximize our efforts during those first couple weeks. Now, 2 months after launch, your average Faceless member might play less than some of your mid-tier or casual guilds, especially raid less, because we have put in the time on the front end. We can kind of relax a little bit more on the back end. And also, our raid style is such that really, I guess our philosophy is that we respect everybody's time. So we don't fuck around. We don't waste your time. We are very efficient. We are very professional in how we conduct raids and how we execute our goals, so that you don't have to spend any more time in that setting than you want to spend.
When Pantheon comes out, how many members do you expect to have?
It's hard to say. Once you're in Faceless, as long as you're a member in good standing, you weren't kicked out for something stupid, you're always welcome to come back. And I know a huge number of our players, past and present, are very interested. So it might be a situation where we have to really filter down a little bit. If we had less than 300 people attempting to go with us on retail launch, I would be surprised.
So having this large rating guild, this hardcore large rating guild, how many support members do you have to have? And is there a place for people to move up once they become a member of the Faceless?
Can you clarify what you mean by support members?
Officers, raid leaders,
got it.
Crew officers.
Right. So there's definitely room to move up. Everything we do is based on merit. So whenever I see talent, I'm very quick to utilize that talent and give it room to grow, because people who take the initiative and show leadership capability are pretty rare. We always want to capitalize on that. That said, each branch usually has between 5 and 8 officers. Right now, we're operating on our 3rd branch. So we're looking at about 15 to 20 officers that we have right now.
So what does the Faceless feel about competition? Are they going to go to the server with less competition, or are they going to search out the best guilds and have an experience with them?
A lot of our members want to go towards certain specific guilds to contest them and fight with them, because we have some members who are really into that. Personally, and of course this is subject to change, I think that when server names are announced, I'm going to announce the server that Faceless will play on, and we'll take all comers, right? If someone wants to come onto the same server as us, they will hopefully do so knowing what our intent and our play style is, and ready to handle that if that's their goal. So yeah, I'm gonna say what we're gonna do and let the chips fall where they may.
That's pretty honorable, because a lot of times you'll see guilds, well, not a lot of times, but some of the times you'll see guilds sneak in there and try to control a server real fast and avoid the competition and control everything. But I'm glad that you're out there saying that's what my server's gonna, that's the server that I'm gonna be on, and announcing it to the community. So with that said, what do you think makes your guild members the most happy in the Faceless?
I think our level of professionalism within the guild. We screw around and we joke around and we have a lot of fun, but our public face, we attempt to keep as professional as we possibly can. We've got a long-standing tradition of a policy that says we don't really engage in conversation in open channels. So it's rare for you to find screenshots of tells, shout, OC, or say chat with our members looking stupid. Usually, if someone sends me a screenshot of one of my members misbehaving in chat, we'll post it in our Discord publicly. We'll tag that member in it, and I don't even have to say anything else. The guild gives them a pretty good reaming because people don't want their guild tag presented in that way. So I think it really is that professionalism and that very efficiency-focused mindset that we have.
Very well, very well. So, what are your core operating hours for the Faceless? I'm going to guess and assume that it's all hours, but let me know.
Yeah, it's 24/7. We've got officers who are I'm in Japan. We've got some guys in Australia, some guys in Europe. We've got a huge crew of people in North America. So we really operate 24/7. You've been in our Discord for a couple of days now. I'm sure you've seen a lot of those alerts for the bat phones as we send them out at any time of day.
If one of your listeners was to think about joining your guild, what type of person would they need to be to join the Faceless?
First and foremost, professional. Second, focused, willing to listen, willing to shut up during raids.
So say a person that says, I don't want to actually spend too much time raiding. Can I actually go there and craft a bunch of items? Is that for somebody in the Faceless? Could you accept them?
Probably not.
How about someone that doesn't want to craft at all and just wants to raid all the time? Would you accept that?
That's no problem for us.
No problem. How about someone that only has 4 or 5 hours of data to allot to raiding?
It would depend on the context of the game and a few other questions. First, what's the most key question is, what is their playtime availability during launch weeks? If it's really high and then after that they go to a relatively limited raid schedule, that could possibly work. But if they can't do a big launch rush, that's kind of like the cornerstone of our guild, so that would be a firm no.
What type of person would you not want in the Faceless? Because what my show is about is trying to get the right people to the right guilds. With that said, what type of person is not the Faceless?
I'm not really interested in people whose primary goal in MMOs is to grief people or be a nuisance, or people who don't know when to stop talking. I mean, I just like people who can conduct themselves professionally and act like an adult.
Do you think you could take any casual players?
So we do this thing. We have a rank in our guild called Friends and Family. This evolved originally because a lot of our members, being around so long, you have members who can't, they're not going to have a decade of hardcore raiding. They have families, they grow up. And some of them can't play that way anymore. But to us, that doesn't make them like not a member of Faceless, right? They did their time, they earned their spot, and now we give them the rank friends and family. So they can hang around, still chat. When they're on and available, they can raid with us. But we don't have that expectation that they be on doing all this stuff. So in that sense, people could qualify for a friends and family slot. But if you've never been in the guild, you have no history and no connection to the guild, it would be very hard for you to find that area for us.
So in essence, everybody has to do their time to get in the Faceless.
Right, you got to earn it.
No free rides for you guys. If one of our listeners was to think about joining your guild, how would they go about doing that? Maybe filling out an application?
Right, so they would go to our website, facelessgaming.org, and then there's an apply button at the top. It'll bring a drop down, and then they could select the organization they'd like to apply for, whether it's our WoW, Agnar, Lockjaw, or Pantheon crew.
Is the application process hard?
I would say that it's not very hard. Our philosophy on this really is that we're a wide net on applications, and it's a very tight net on getting in and actually staying in the guild. So we'll give almost anybody a shot. As to whether or not you ultimately make it is kind of up to your performance.
Now, when you say performance, is that making a variety of of raids, or just doing what you're told? What does that mean?
Right. It means a few things. It means performing well in actual raids, right? Like don't stand and fire. If you're a DPS class, you have to DPS well relative to your gearing level. We understand some applicants are going to come in less geared than our core raiders, of course. It means your behavior, right? Your demeanor, how you conduct yourself in guild chat, issues that could arise during your application period in just like public scenarios, open dungeons could disqualify you, because like if you're causing a lot of drama somewhere in the first 14 or 30 days that you've joined, you might not be a good fit for us. So it's all those sort of things. It's how you perform in those raids. It's how you perform outside of raids, and it's how you mesh with the chemistry of the guild. You have to share our vision and philosophy, which is that attempt to strive for excellence and efficiency.
Next one is a common one I ask people. Is your guild open to alliances in regards to other guilds to share information and possibly raid together?
Yeah, I'm really big on community endeavors like that. So as you know, Faceless did not start out as a top guild. And one of the ways that I learned to compete against much bigger, much more well-established guilds was through leveraging multiple guild assets. And so I'm still open to that today, even though our position is much more dominant. I love to work with other guilds. I love the politics and the intrigue of open world guild alliances.
Is there anything that you really think that distinguishes your guild from all the other hardcore guilds?
It's hard to say. I look at a lot of the other hardcore guilds, and I don't really see them doing anything right now. Now, it's not a knock on them. You know, each guild runs in their own manner. But Faceless has never really taken a break in almost 10 years now. So I think that sets us apart. And each time we play on a new server, we just tend to go harder and harder and harder. So we're always refining our approach. We're never resting on our laurels. We're always looking for ways to improve, even when we're already the best, even when we're the top guild on a server. We're running through the same content, trying to do it faster than we did it last week, giving bonus DKP incentives for members if we clear the zone in 2 hours this week when we did it in 2.5 hours last week, that kind of thing. We never say, okay, this was good enough, great job. We'll say, hey, everyone did pretty well. Now, next time, let's do even better. That's what sets us apart.
Improving, always improving, getting better. So you just brought up a good question for our listeners out there. A lot of them have a concern with loot or armor. How does it work in the Faceless?
Each branch dictates their own loot policy based on what's most efficient for them. So 2 of our branches right now use DKP. Our WoW branch is using Loot Council, but both of our DKP systems are slightly different. So we just look at the nature of the game. We've got a lot of veteran MMO players who are very experienced with this, and we make the decision that we think is the best for the guild. And when I say that, I mean gives us the best freedom to progress rapidly and effectively. I'm really not a big fan of people who are like, quote, loot whores, who are very concerned with loot. When you're in the top guild, loot is going to come. You're going to get stacked. You're going to be best in slot. It's just going to happen. For me, the big thing is people who put guild before self. It's about the group, and in my opinion, if every piece of loot that drops, as long as it's appropriately assigned or distributed to the member base, is my loot. It's helping me, it's helping the guild, it's helping everybody. So that's what I care about. I care about efficient loot distribution, and I think that should be everyone's focus.
Of course, I'm happy to hear that. Do you consider Loot Council something that you're open to, or is it with Pantheon, or is it strictly something that you'll have to find out from all your officers and the community?
Loot Council is definitely something that I'm open to. I think Loot Council generally is a stronger loot system for progression, especially new progression, when you really need to prioritize things for, like, say, tanks. Like, usually you really have to get a stacked tank to progress through content as rapidly as possible. DKP in many ways doesn't offer you the same flexibility with that, but it's a little bit more transparent and makes members feel a little better about things. So there's pros and cons for each, and we're not closing the book on either one of those right now. A lot of the determination will be made more around the beta timeframe, when we've had a very thorough testing duration against as much content as possible.
Very well, very well. I like that. Do you guys ever do pug raids?
Not officially. There was never really a reason to. Now we don't tell members that they can't lead pug raids on old content, but certainly we would never allow pug raids on current content, really.
What are you guys mostly excited about with Pantheon right now?
It's hard to say. There's so much. I mean, the prospect of an open world game having no instances, not being tied down to artificial limitations on how you approach and engage mobs and interact with other players really excites us. It's the first time in a long time that we've seen an MMO that's geared towards punishing gameplay elements and is also open world and is going to let the community develop naturally. It's going to give players a space to be a hero or a villain, and I think that's really something that we all look forward to.
So to get a little insight on how the Faceless raids, say somebody throws a bunch of mobs on you, what do you guys do? Do you bitch and moan, or you get back? Do you get even? How does the Faceless work?
Oh, we definitely don't bitch and moan at all. Generally, the way it goes is the raid leader someone will call a train incoming, will attempt to CC the train or kite the train while we continue doing what we're doing. As for getting even, it depends on the situation. I mean, certainly if someone drops a train on us and we have the ability to kite it away back onto them, we'll do that pretty much 100% of the time. But our focus is definitely on downing the content, and the people who are competing with us are secondary. So I think that at the end of the day, if we kill the mob and they don't, that's enough victory for me. Now, once a guild competing with us establishes a precedent for how the competitions will go, we have no problem in all future occasions matching that precedent. So I'm okay with guilds doing that. It doesn't bother me. I'm never going to get my feelings hurt if I get trained or griefed on a raid. That's kind of what I've come to expect. But they should understand that once they open that box, it doesn't get closed. Have you seen on the TLP servers, they recently, I guess not recently anymore, they added a major buff to the raid content called Mitigation of the Mighty? No,
it sounds like it makes it less effective.
Yeah, so that was actually in response to some of the stuff we did. When we got our world record breaking Nagfin and Lady Vox kills, we killed those dragons for the server first in 40 hours, and we did it with like a bunch of level 30s. What ended up happening was the GMs developed a way to make the raid content stronger called Mitigation of the Mighty. So all the raid mobs, their HP was, I want to say roughly quadrupled. So they went from 32k to 120k HP. You do 40% of the damage you used to do. And they have increased AC. They hit about twice as hard as they used to hit. And then they also added Mark of the Old Ways. So pets can no longer tank raid content. And if you have too many pets attacking a single target, all the pets become super weak. Then they also added Presence of the Mighty. So every time you're around a raid target, all your resists are reduced by 40 points right off the top. And all spells and abilities raid mobs use hit for like 33% more.
So that's on the progression servers?
Yeah, so now all new progression content for the last couple servers has utilized that. And I mean, that's one of those things where we kind of were complaining because it was just so easy and stupid raiding in that situation. And they changed it. And now sometimes it's a little too much, but for the most part, it's a lot more fulfilling.
Yeah, I would have to agree, because it's no fun just doing the mundane milk run. But I definitely think that the Faceless is going to be one of those guilds that's everybody's going to want to join to be that top raider.
Thanks.
But if you move to PvP, I guess you're going to have to fight Condemned, because they're all saying they're the best.
I'm not worried about it. You know, honestly, I think this is kind of like something most people would want to avoid saying, but I just don't think that most guilds can field a roster deep enough to compete with us.
I mean, it's all about how many people are willing to stick it out for 10 years. I mean, is that how old most of the members are for 10 years? That's pretty impressive.
Right, and every time we're the top guild on a new server, that's a whole new crop of fresh hardcore players that we have too. So there's such a high level of experience and a deep roster, and we play 24/7 too because of the Everquest bat phone raid style. So if we went to a PvP server, I mean, Condemned is probably really, really great. Their guys seem really professional, but we probably would outnumber them like 3 or 4 to 1, and we'd be willing to log in at any time. And you know, I don't know that they would be able to deal with that. I guess we'll see.
So what do you guys feel about boxing?
I support boxing 100%. Most of my members box. I've boxed. Yeah, I mean, it's just another way to leverage your resources.
So you're okay with having 10 or 12 man box systems?
It becomes, you know, usually the people who box that sort of way have certain personality traits that make them hard to work with. But for the most part, if someone says, hey, I 6 box or I 12 box or I 20 box, and they come to the raid and they play well and they don't cause any problems, it's not going to bother me one bit. Sorry, I'm conscious of the fact that when you let someone who plays that many characters into your guild, they can disrupt the power balance, right? They can end up putting you in a position where they're overrepresented because they account for so much of your raid force if you don't recruit appropriately. So I'm conscious of that, and I don't let boxers kind of overrun a guild. Any box in a group would otherwise be a real person, so it hinders the community. I think there's a fine line, though. I think people who 2 box pretty much don't hurt the community at all, but people who 6 and 12 box, things like that, I think the higher your box count, generally speaking, not always, but generally, the more degenerate it becomes, and the more negative impact you have on the server, even if you don't do anything wrong. It just has a kind of passive negative impact on the community.
Some people argue that those 12 boxers or 24 boxers are the pay-to-win variety. I'm not going to say that, but I can understand where they're coming from.
I mean, you're paying more money to have more power as a single person, for sure. But also, a lot of people who box are actually just so terrible at boxing that it's like laughable when they try to compete with you, because they just can't. They have more characters than they can play appropriately. I would take 1 or 2 characters played at 100% over 20 characters played at 50% any day.
So I'm going to take you back to EverQuest, EverQuest 2, EverQuest 1. So when somebody has an epic weapon, do the ladies and the men look at you a little differently? What do the people in the Faceless feel?
It's like, so when we see someone with an epic weapon, I suppose we would say something along the lines of like, okay, great, they meet the minimum requirements. It's just expected, right? That if you're in the guild, that you're doing everything possible to perfect your character. So, yeah.
No big deal for the Faceless. They've seen better.
I guess you could say something like that.
Just another day at the park. So when you guys take down, or when the Faceless takes down a large mob or a big dragon, do you think their libido increases? Because I tend to think that after 10 months, there's babies being born.
Yeah, absolutely. My libido rise is directly correlated with the number of hate tales I get whenever a dragon dies.
So you're a hated individual in the community?
Probably not, but I mean, there's certain people who get really salty about it, that's for sure.
What's the funniest thing that you've had sent to you to tell because you guys put down a dragon?
Oh, man. I could send you some screenshots. I've got people who, like, were threatening to fly to Japan and punch me in the face. It's funny.
What's some of the dirtiest tricks people played on you?
Tricks like in a competition sense?
Yeah, like did they drop mobs on you? Did they frap some funny stuff for you that wasn't real?
Oh yeah, so on Agnar, this is a good anecdote. We had someone basically abuse poor game mechanics to create a video that made it look like one of our members was cheating, and then filed that with GMs to get the member banned. And we had to spend like 2 weeks recreating the video with a ton of clearly innocent people, showing how you could manipulate the data to look like someone was cheating and submit that to GMs to get that player then unbanned. So that definitely was annoying. And the whole time they were doing this, they were bragging everywhere on the forums that one of our members was caught hacking.
Yeah, I mean, the community can get crazy out there with fraps. I've seen it on P99. Just out of nowhere, they can just be vicious and mean. Do you feel that that's going to happen in the Pantheon?
Yeah, I definitely, humanity always has that capability of being pretty disappointing. So we'll see it, no doubt. But it's just one of those things. You accept it's going to be there. You accept it when it happens, and you keep moving the best you can.
Well, I thought everybody'd be a little bit older now. We're moving to Pantheon. Everybody's, fans of EverQuest, and EverQuest is 19 years old now. But we might be right. We might just revert back to what we were doing, rolling in the filth.
I expect people to complain a lot more than they did back in our day, because it's such a well-understood tactic, right, to complain to developers and complain on the forums and stuff. And, people have had 20 years to get better at complaining about shit.
So, you're going to be a monk, I take it. Is that what you're going to be?
We'll see. In the testing phases, I'm probably going to run just about every class to max level except for Enchanter and Cleric. I probably won't play those. But right now, I'm looking at Monk, Paladin, Ranger, Summoner, Wizard, one of those classes.
Paladin. That's surprising, since I just listened to the VOT show. You said that you weren't comfortable with being a tank.
Right, I'm not, but I'm not afraid to challenge myself a little bit, and we'll see how it goes. I'll definitely play the Paladin and see what we can do with it.
Yeah, I'm all CC guy. CC, and then I'll do a little bit of healing, but that's where my criteria lays. That's why I'm glad that they're doing the 4-tier system in Pantheon, because I probably wouldn't play if they didn't.
Oh yeah, I mean, no other MMO has really captured that kind of thing that happens to you in like Lower Guck or Seb, where your Enchanter and Bard single-handedly save the group from an impossible situation.
What I don't understand right now is why there isn't another CC. We'll find out what happens.
My personal theory is that we'll see a lot of CC with the Bard, we'll see a lot of CC with the Druid, and I think the other classes will just have like short duration CC capabilities, and then the Enchanter will, of course, be the king of CC.
And that's all the time that we have. I want to thank everybody from the Faceless for letting me in their Discord channel. I want to thank Zaid, Shucklighter, Seeger, Ashenor, Big Chint, and Citadel for all the time that they spent with me. From here on out, Leksur's going to be on the show here at Pixel Debauchery. I want to thank him as well. And if you would like to know more about Faceless, go ahead and head over to their website at facelessgaming.org. Do you like what you see? Head on over to patreon.com/pixeldebauchery and go ahead and hit that patron button and give us a little donation to prove you actually like what we're doing here. Again, thanks for watching.
Are you extreme to the max? Is your life about succeeding in every way possible to devour those scrumptious pixels? Well, Guild Numbasses is hiring. Do you find that your room reeks of poopy socks and Mountain Dew bottles full of urine? That's entirely too dark. Is a good time for you attaching a fresh colostomy bag to gain a few more seconds to kill that raid boss? Good news! Guild Numbasses has a place for you. With a minimum raid attendance of 99.87 required to be a member, you will surely be the envy of all Terminus. Guild Numbasses. We're extreme to the ass. Text us today at 555-NUMBASS. Get on your ass today.